I am Iron Man.
The movie Iron Man begins by showing the border of Afghanistan. Tony Stark, a genius billionaire and the owner of Stark Industries, a weapons manufacturing company, arrives to demonstrate a powerful new missile called the 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. This missile is capable of destroying entire countries. After the demonstration, Tony gets into a car with some soldiers to head back home. However, terrorists attack their convoy, killing all the soldiers. Tony manages to escape but is knocked unconscious by one of his own company's missiles. The story then flashes back to 36 hours earlier. Tony is being honored with an award for his work in weapons development, but he skips the ceremony to gamble at a casino. His father's friend, 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗀, accepts the award on his behalf. Later, Tony is approached by a reporter, Christine, who questions the morality of his weapons deals. Tony defends himself, arguing that weapons are necessary to protect our people in case of a world war. After spending the night with Christine, Tony wakes up to find out he has a meeting in Afghanistan. He flies there with his friend James Rhodes. However, during the trip, terrorists ambush his convoy and capture him. In the present, Tony wakes up in a cave with a battery connected to his chest. A man named Dr. Yinsen explains that shrapnel from the missile explosion is dangerously close to Tony's heart. To save him, Yinsen created an electromagnetic device to keep the shrapnel from killing him. The terrorists' leader, Raza, demands that Tony build a 𝗟𝗶𝗲𝗀 missile for them, threatening to kill him if he refuses. Tony pretends to cooperate, but secretly plans to escape. With Yinsen's help, he begins building a suit of armor using materials from the terrorists' weapons. Tony also creates a small arc reactor to power the suit, which is far more efficient than the battery. The terrorists eventually realize Tony is up to something, but don't understand what he's building. Tony and Yinsen finish the suit, but the terrorists attack before they can fully prepare. Yinsen sacrifices himself to buy Tony time to power up the suit. Yinsen steps forward and attacks the terrorists, giving Tony time to finish preparing his suit. Once the suit is ready, Tony fights his way out of the cave. After a tough fight, the terrorists injure Yinsen, and seeing this deeply affects Tony. Filled with anger, Tony fights his way out of the cave, defeating all the terrorists. He destroys all the Stark Industries weapons stored there and escapes into the desert. However, his suit, which he named the Mark I, breaks down, and Tony starts walking away. Just then, James Rhodes and his team rescue Tony and bring him back to California. This marks the beginning of Tony's transformation into Iron Man, as he starts to rethink the consequences of his weapons and his role in the world. As soon as Tony arrives, he asks his bodyguard, Happy, to quickly arrange a press conference. At the press conference, 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗀, Tony's father's friend and business partner, welcomes him. The media questions Tony about the incident in Afghanistan. Tony reveals that he was directly attacked by terrorists using weapons made by his own company. He then shocks everyone by announcing that Stark Industries will no longer manufacture weapons. Stane interrupts, claiming Tony is still in shock from the incident, and that they will discuss the matter internally. Stane asks Tony what happened in Afghanistan and how he escaped. Tony explains that he was captured by a terrorist group named 10 Rings and forced to build the 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀 missile, but instead, he built an iron suit powered by an arc reactor to escape. He shows Stane the arc reactor in his chest, and Stane is impressed, calling it a brilliant invention that should be shared with the whole world. However, Tony refuses and leaves. Back home, Tony improves the arc reactor and creates a new version. He asks his assistant, 𝗟𝗶𝗶𝗲, to help him replace the old reactor in his chest with the new one. Meanwhile, the terrorists find the broken pieces of Tony's Mark I suit in the desert and start collecting them. Tony begins working on a new suit, the Mark II, in his lab. He tests it by flying high into the sky, reaching an altitude of 80,000 feet. However, the suit freezes at that height, causing the systems to fail, and Tony starts falling. As he descends, the ice melts, and the suit restarts, allowing him to land safely. After testing the Mark II, Tony returns home, where he receives a gift from Pepper, a framed version of his old ARC reactor. This makes Tony very happy. While testing the Mark II, Tony realizes that the suit has issues with freezing at high altitudes, so he decides to make design changes. Meanwhile, he sees on the news that Stane is hosting a big party, but hasn't invited him. Tony decides to crash the party, where he meets Pepper, and they spend some quality time together. During the party, Tony runs into Christine, the reporter, who shows him photos of Stark Industries weapons being sold in Afghanistan, specifically in a village called 𝗟𝗄𝗃. This angers Tony, and he confronts Stane, who dismisses it as just business. Tony becomes furious. Back home, Tony learns that innocent people, including women and children, are being killed in 𝗟𝗄𝗃. This fuels his anger further, and he upgrades his suit with new technology. Once the new suit is ready, Tony flies to 𝗟𝗃 and takes down all the terrorists, destroying the Stark Industries weapons stored there. The destruction caused by Tony Stark in Afghanistan catches the attention of the American Air Force. They investigate to determine which plane caused the devastation, but soon realize it wasn't a plane. It was something much smaller. They send fighter jets to chase it down. Meanwhile, Tony calls his friend James Rhodes and says, "What you think is a plane is actually me. Call off your jets and let me go." James keeps this information secret and orders his men to retreat, claiming it's a fight between two enemies. The fighter jets fail to catch Tony and eventually return. When the media questions Tony about the destruction in Afghanistan, he claims it was a clash between two enemy groups. However, Obadiah Stane learns about this and feels threatened, realizing Tony has become a formidable opponent. Stane meets with the Ten Rings terrorist organization and asks who caused the destruction. The leader of Ten Rings reveals it was Tony Stark, who used an iron suit to wreak havoc. Stane tricks the Ten Rings leader, destroys their base, and takes the Mark I suit for himself. Meanwhile, Tony discovers that Stane is behind the illegal arms deals with terrorists. He asks his assistant, 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗄, to retrieve crucial information from Stane's computer to expose him. While transferring files, Pepper finds a video revealing that Stane orchestrated the terrorist attack on Tony. As she tries to leave, Stane confronts her. But with the help of a SHIELD agent, 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀, she manages to escape with the evidence. Stane realizes Pepper has stolen the information and becomes desperate, knowing Tony is onto him. Stane goes to Tony's house, paralyzes him using a special weapon, and removes the arc reactor from Tony's chest, leaving him weak. Tony barely manages to reach his lab and replaces the reactor with the old one Pepper had given him as a gift. He then suits up in his new Iron Man armor to confront Stane. Meanwhile, Stane fits the stolen reactor into his own massive iron suit called Ironmonger. Tony confronts Stane in a fierce battle, but realizes Stane's suit is more powerful. Remembering that his suit freezes at high altitudes, Tony lures Stane into the sky. At 91,000 feet, Stane's suit freezes, and he begins to fall. However, his suit restarts as he descends, and the fight continues. Tony crashes onto the roof of his company's lab and instructs Pepper to overload the arc reactor's power. She does so, causing a massive energy surge that engulfs Stane, leading to his death. The next day, at a press conference, SHIELD agent Coulson gives Tony a scripted speech to read. However, Tony ignores it and publicly declares, "I am Iron Man."
I am Iron Man.
In the post-credits scene, Nick Fury visits Tony's home and tells him, "You think you're the only superhero in the world. There's a bigger universe out there." The movie ends on this note, setting the stage for future adventures of the Avengers. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like and share the video. Thank you for watching.